We have some news, at least on the satellite imagery. Notice the imagery. We actually saw a little bit of an eye trying to develop, but that has since gone by the wayside. Look, though, you never want to see purple. These are colder cloud tops. Notice the 12-hour loop. We were starting out as a more potent tropical system, but this has still got some juice in it, and we can see some of the tendrils coming out here on the western flank. That's kind of a mixture of some of the drier air coming in. Sometimes it's an indication of a little intensification factor, but this is getting very close to the coast, and now we're about to make landfall in the next few hours. Still top of the hour, 3 o'clock. We're going to get the 4 o'clock data coming in very soon, and I know they're going to change the forecast track. 90-mile-per-hour winds, pressure down 1 millibar from a little bit earlier, but that is not overly significant. But let's point to the track, and I've kind of been hinting at this over the last day or so with the graph model, the HER model, indicating that we think this is going to make landfall more toward Terrebonne Parish than St. Mary Parish. And you see the line going straight north. It's moving to the northeast at 17. So this is going to, the center of this circulation is going to be going into Terrebonne Parish most certainly. And again, what we show instead of the cone, we're showing you the radius of tropical storm force winds and the radius of hurricane force winds. So you see the tropical storm force winds, Lafayette, southeastern portions of St. Landry Parish. This would be the sustained winds at 39 or greater. So we're on the edge of it. Lafayette, New Iberia, certainly in it. And then the possibility of hurricane conditions based on this forecast track. This could all move more farther to the east as well with the next update that we're going to get in from the National Hurricane Center. But if you're in this area of orange, that means you have the potential for hurricane force conditions, hurricane force gusts just south of Baton Rouge, and then pushing over toward the Laplace area. And then, of course, once this makes landfall, it should weaken pretty quickly with that dry air bucking in against this system as it moves inland. The hurricane warnings, tropical storm warnings, they haven't changed. We'll see what comes up at the 4 o'clock hour. And as we mentioned, we did get a report from an elevated platform out in the Gulf of Mexico of 92-mile-per-hour sustained winds, gusts to 112, but that's at 100 feet. We measure everything inland at 30 feet. That's what affects most buildings and whatever. We don't have a whole lot of high rises, but the latest wind gusts at Ship Shoal 241 sustained at 76. So they're getting a hurricane, and you can see it's right here based that they're seeing almost a south-south wind. So again, very close to making landfall. And we see other offshore observations in the 40-50 mile per hour range. I just looked at the Sippermore Point, and they're gusting to about 40 to sustained at about 35 to 40, gusts 45 to 50. So we're starting to see those higher gusts work their way inland. As for the inland stations, most of us seeing 20, 30 mile an hour wind gusts, the latest Patterson gusts now pushing where we have some issues with respect to not only damaging winds, these are wind gusts, but this is where we're going to see the power outages. And as we look at the big picture, here comes that drier air. And is it making ground? It's trying to, but we're also seeing some of the blow off from the hurricane kind of masking some of the drier air that's working its way in. But I think by midnight tonight, we see the stars out, and this is going to be moving off to the north and northeast quickly. So let's get to the brass tacks. And when we get to the radar, we can see a fairly large eye right here. This is about 45 miles, 50 miles in diameter. But where we were showing you the enhanced cloud tops, this is where the most intense rain is occurring right on the, we'll say, St. Mary Parish and Terrebonne Parish line. Let's get in a little bit closer here. And this is where we're going to have hurricane conditions about to work their way in toward the Morgan City area. So even though the center of the storm is going to go in here, you know, officially it'll go in the books as making landfall, maybe near point 04, somewhere over here toward Timberleer Bay. We're still going to have hurricane conditions in the extreme eastern portions of St. Mary Parish. And again, we'll watch this rain band and try to project where it's going to go, but everything's moving to the northeast. And as the models were advertising, where is the worst convection? On the northern part of the eye wall. Typically, it's the northern or eastern eye wall. The eastern side, this is where you're going to have your tornadoes, and you can have tornadoes in any of these outer bands, and then you're going to have gustnadoes and damaging winds that are similar to tornadoes in that eye wall there. And again, you can see some wraparound here on the western flank, but also We see this eye wall is pretty naked on the southwestern quadrant. That's the drier air interacting with this. So this is going to stay at Cat 1 at landfall, 90, maybe 95 mile per hour winds. We'll see what the 4 o'clock update comes in. That's going to be coming in the next, 30 minutes. It usually comes in before 4, but we'll get the latest forecast track and information updated at the top of every hour with respect to the storm. Elsewhere across Acadiana, you can see some of those rain bands. Most of the heavier rain bands out toward the Atchafalaya Basin. We have some heavy ones in Vermilion Parish. So let's kind of zoom in and bring in the high resolution power Doppler 3 here, your most high power Doppler radar in all of Acadiana. So this is why we went out and spent the money and bought a new radar a couple of years ago for this certain reason and the velocity data, which we'll get to in just a bit. Heaviest rains, soaking rains across Vermilion Parish at this hour. Lighter rains to the west. It cuts off right at Welsh. Lake Charles high and dry. The same in Kinder, but back farther to the east, on and off tropical showers. But the worst weather is going to be over the southeastern parishes of Acadiana. A couple of heavier tropical rain bands moving through the Maurice area and off down through, say, Kaplan. Pretty heavy rains just north of Abbeville right now. And then we get to Forked Island. Again, you see some pretty heavy rains, and down toward the coast as we get closer to, say, the Pecan Island area, some pretty heavy rains there as well. Farther to the east we go, and there you see some of the heavier rains about to work their way inland. Again, you can see the edge of our high power Doppler radar, but here, this is very intense rainfall. This is still in the coastal marsh, but it's going to be working its way to the populated areas. It looks like in the next 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes max. And this is where conditions are going to get awfully rough across the Morgan City area, Berwick, and then back to the north and west, maybe as far north and west as, say, Franklin. And then as you get up toward Jeanerette, it's not going to be quite as bad. And again, not seeing a whole lot in the eastern portions of Acadiana. And then we can pull in and take a look at St. Landry Parish here. Want to include everybody, but I'm telling you, Lafayette on southeastward, that's where it's going to be bad. Lafayette on north and westward, it's just going to be a day with on and off showers, a nice breeze, and a good indoor day for a movie or watching us here at KTC. We're going to be going on nonstop, and the more eyeballs on us, it makes us feel a little bit better, so we appreciate that. So here we go with the Doppler velocity, and this is, again, this is key when it comes to tracking the tropical systems, again, and just a little bit of if you're just joining us, again, Doppler radar, if it's red, it's moving away from our radar. If it's green or blue, it's moving toward the radar. So we can put this in motion, and we can see again how things are moving, and we can go ahead and interrogate some of these right here. We'll just query just say just north and west of Abbeville. The clouds are moving at about 58 miles an hour. So if you have a strong rain band, then you're going to have, again, some of those winds working their way down to the ground. But this is at maybe 3 or 4 or 5,000 feet. You need those tropical rain bands and those very well organized tropical rain bands to bring that kind of wind down to the ground. Then we get into St. Mary Parish, and let's go ahead and take a look at the winds, say Morgan City. We'll go to Centerville. We've been in the 70s. Boy, it's been consistent in the high 60s, low 70s across the board. But let me go ahead and see if I can. No, I don't want to do that. I want to go ahead and move this. Let's get rid of this, and let's do this, and let's do camera. And let's do pan. No, we're good right here. And then, yeah, okay, this is where we're starting to see, again, the higher winds as we get into right down toward Timbaleer Bay and into Lafourche Parish. So let's query this darker shade blue. And what will we guess, 90 or 100 perhaps? 105. So this is where those strong winds are. And that's what we're seeing, those strong gusty winds coming in with that very intense rain band. I could go to the radar sweeps here so we can see the entire rain band, and you can see this is the heaviest weather right now, all in the coastal marsh. So that is the good news down towards Salt Point and points to the south and east. But we put this in motion. We do see this working its way northward. So this is where the damaging winds are, and this will be working its way up toward the Highway 90 area. So again, that's what we're seeing. And we can also do this. This is kind of a little fancy thing. It's like, okay, let's look at this. Let's get in the scope and we can see those damaging winds working their way inland, and then we can go ahead and query that as well, I think. I don't know. But you see how we can do a number of different things here on the wall. And again, we're not seeing a whole lot in the way of severe weather other than what's approaching St. Mary Parish and moving to Lafourche Parish as we speak. Tornado watch in effect through 11 o'clock tonight for the eastern sections of Acadiana and all of southeast Louisiana into Mississippi as well. And we have those flood watches going across the area. We did have a flood warning that's in effect for much of St. Mary Parish. That's that outlined area right here for the potential of very heavy rainfall. It's mostly the northern portion and the populated portion of St. Mary Parish as well. So as we move forward, again, we think the models are pretty much on it. The National Hurricane Center hopefully coming in with an update shortly. But again, you can see those rains working their way in through the region. And again, worse conditions as you go to the east and north of the storm. Better conditions as we go through most of Acadiana. So fortunately, it looks like most of Acadiana is going to dodge a bullet on hurricane conditions, with the exception being Lower St. Martin and St. Mary parishes as well. And those wind gusts beginning to pick up as we speak, 40, 50 mile per hour gusts likely. And we could probably add more to this based on what we're seeing on the radar. So we're going to nowcast more, and we're going to kind of drop some of this information. But it also gives you an idea that the winds are not going to be too terribly bad. You get into Acadia, Jeff Davis Parish, 30, 40 mile per hour gusts, not much more than that. And then again, the model telling us the center of the storm making landfall over toward Terrebonne Parish. And I think that's where the Hurricane Center has to go with their track. I thought they would start doing it at 10 o'clock last night or earlier today. That was not to be the case. But those guys are smarter than me, and there's a lot more folks there and professionals there that know what they're doing. Rainfall, again, heaviest as we go farther to the east. This is the latest run. This is the HER model. It updates once an hour, giving us most areas 5 inches to 8 inches of rain. You get into yellow, you're talking 8 inches. But again, the storm is moving along at a good clip, so that is the good news. We're going to get more storm surge information, so with the next suite of model guidance, just take a look at the forecast as we move forward. This is for Lafayette. High rain chances next few hours, then it's sporadic, showing some wind. And here are the winds, sustained winds out of the northeast, then turning out of the north, and then toward the northwest or north-northwest as we go through the wee morning hours of tomorrow. Partly cloudy skies as we get into tomorrow, and tomorrow looks to be a very nice day.